Looks can be very deceiving. Many of us think that child sexual predators or molesters are these evil, vile, wretched, goofy-looking cloak and dagger sneak around at night. No, it's not. That's not the case. As we said, they blend into the community. We call it the chameleon effect. What that is these people are your brothers, your husbands, your wives, your grandpa, grandma, the doctor, the camp counselor. You know, I hate to throw things out there, but you've got police officers who've been convicted and found guilty. You have priests. You have religious deities. You have, it runs the gamut. They fit in. And I'm going to make a quick analogy. How many of you remember John Wayne Gacy? The multiple mass murderer. He donated his time. He blended in when everybody started to find out that Gacy was committing all these atrocious murders. And if you really look at his case, many of those murders are sexually based, right? Nobody believed it until they started exhuming bodies out from underneath the house. And everybody's like, oh crap, this is true.
And one thing that I talk about all the time during voir dire, at the beginning of the process, is everybody's heard beyond a shadow of a doubt. Has everybody heard that statement? That's not what my burden of proof is. It's beyond a reasonable doubt. And by that I mean reasonable doubt. Not, irrational, it couldn't have been this, we don't have CSI, so we don't have all these neat gadgets, so therefore the defendant, we have reasonable doubt. That's not the burden of proof, and that's really, really important. I think with the inundation of all the TV shows, and the discussions over and over again, beyond a shadow of a doubt, beyond all doubt, we are forced now, as prosecutors, and trying to hopefully get the predators off the street, that people misunderstand that and, in essence, hold us to a higher standard or burden of proof than really is necessary under the law.
You also have the length of the case, both investigation and prosecution. On national average, from the time that a child discloses, whether freely or by accident, until the time you make it into a courtroom, 2 years. So in that meantime, and we talked about it takes 2 years to get to trial, those of you with children, how quickly do they age? So you have this innocent, cute little pigtailed girl or this cute little boy, and by the time you get to court in 2 years, they've matured. So they no longer look the way they did. Then you have the child itself. Many of these child sexual crimes happen on children who have problems, or there's some problems within that family. It may not be a raging problem that you can see, but there's issues within that home. So the children have some character issues, and they prey upon that. And they will spend meticulous amounts of time grooming that child to that behavior, making that child feel comfortable moving through the steps to the abuse. They just don't walk up and go, I've got you, buddy. They make you feel good about yourself. They make you feel good. They take you places. They take you for an ice cream. They do all these things that get you used to being around Uncle John, and then the next thing you know, the abuse happens and the child is used to it. The child progresses, the child ages, so you have that problem. And after the abuse, how many of you would have a problem dealing with that if it happened to you?
And unfortunately, a lot of that stuff is admissible in the courtroom. Some of it's not. The child, how the child acts, but a lot of it is admissible. And so we have a victim who is not an ideal victim per se, in the sense that, we have a cute piggy-tailed little girl who's now somewhat a juvenile delinquent, doesn't go to school, wears promiscuous clothing, has a tendency to lie, recants her story back and forth because she's pulled out of the home, put into a foster care home, has problems acting out with other kids, and the problems perpetuate. And then we go to court, and 12 members of the community look at the child and then determine maybe she is not telling the truth. And I tell you what, that does a lot. That does a lot for the well-being of the child. So we have all sorts of problems there as well.
We also have what's called ICAC, ICAC and Innocent Images. This is a system that is funded by the federal government. It's associated with a company called NCMEC. It's not a company, but that's the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. We do a lot of internet-based crimes. We do a lot of stuff. ICAC helps to protect children by identifying sexual predators. Anytime that we work a case where there's a sexual predator, or you have any type of sexual molestation where there's pictures, videos, anything like that was taken, we submit those images to NCMEC. They can tell you how old that child is, They put that in a database, so it's there. So if I work a case in 6 months and it's on this gentleman over here, and he's got an image, I can submit that image, and they will see if that image is the same image as another one before. And they also help to locate victim children. Because many times you have children that are victims and nobody knows where the heck they're at. You do have that human trafficking and things like that, the traveling sex rings, all that.
My wife had a preschool in California just about the time I think it was Mick Martin case was up, where the children were coached into claiming sexual abuse. How do you prevent against? How do you guard against that happening again?
It goes back to, it goes back to the forensic interview techniques and the special multidisciplinary. That was one of the things that predicated this forensic interview protocol that we use, is because there are many cases like that, Little Rascals Daycare and things like that, where children are susceptible to multiple questioning and to leading types of questions. For instance, I wouldn't ask you, as an adult, I would say, okay, so this gentleman next to you, he touched your pee-pee, didn't he? And you'd go yes or no. Well, we understand that you can explain that. If I do that to a child, what does that message send to that child? That's how I want that child to answer that question, correct? So you don't ask the question in that manner.
My role as a prosecutor is not for a conviction. It doesn't matter. I don't have a conviction, acquittal, tally sheet. I'm not paid by the number of times I send somebody to jail. My job is to ascertain what the truth is. That is the rule and the whole focus of a forensic interview. We don't care. In fact, I would rather have a child come in for a forensic interview and we ascertain nothing's there. So this forensic interview and my job is not to, let's stick somebody in jail, let's say that there's everybody in the daycare was molested. I mean, that's not beneficial to anybody. The whole point is to ascertain what the truth is. And there's certain layers of protection that we do. And as Robert talked about, child sexual abuse crimes is, it's a lot of time the word of the victim, and that's it. It's a he said, she said, but the she said, unfortunately, is a young child, language differences, who's grown up accustomed to that, who may have problems in school. I mean, we have a whole bunch of issues. But we investigate, we try to find other things to come up with. Is this story, is there something there, or is this story made up? You know, has the child been left alone in the daycare? You know, as Robert said, this doesn't happen in aisle 5 at Walmart. If, has this child been left alone at the daycare, only one person can do this, or this is the presence of the whole daycare. Well, if through investigation they are able to determine, yeah, after 3 o'clock nap, Johnny goes out to the back shed with the daycare worker. Well, there's something to that, and then we can determine that what does the back shed look like. Well, there's certain things in there. Well, that substantiates or kind of goes into what the child said. So the investigation itself leads to providing more information to help with the case.
We always say that disclosure to a sexual abuse is not a one-time issue. It is a process that you must go through.